Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Gaura Premanande. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone, especially to our guests. Thank you for coming to our program this morning. So, we're going to be reading from a book called the Srimad Bhagavatam. And first we'll start with a few prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Canto number 4, chapter 8, text number 24. Maitreya uvacha evam sanjalpitam matur akarnyarta gamam vacha saniyam yatmanatmanam Nishchakrama pitu purat. Maitreya uvacha evam sanjalpitam matur akarnyarta gamam vacha saniyam yatmanatmanam nishchakrama pitu purat. Maitreya uvacha evam sanjalpitam matur akarnyarta gamam vacha saniyam yatmanam tmanam nishchakrama pitu purat. Maitreya uvacha evam sanjalpitam matur akarnyarta gamam vacha saniyam yatmanatmanam nishchakrama pitu purat. Maitreya uvacha evam sanjalpitam matur akarnyarta gamam vacha saniyam yatmanatmanam Nishchakrama pitu purat. Maitreya uvacha. Evam sanjalpitam matur. Akarnyartha gamam vacha. Saniyam yatmanatmanam. Nishchakrama pitu purat. Okay. So, Maitreya uvacha. The great sage Maitreya said, Evam, thus, Sanjalpitam, spoken together, Matu, from the mother, Akarnya, hearing, Artha, Agamam, purposeful, Vacha, words, Saniyamya, controlling, Atmana, by the mind, Atmanam, own self, Nishchakrama, got out, Pitu, of the father, Purat, from the house. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki! Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued, the instruction of Dhruva Maharaj's mother, Suniti, was actually meant for fulfilling his desired objective. Therefore, after deliberate consideration and with intelligence and fixed determination, he left his father's house. Purport. Both the mother and the son were lamenting Dhruva Maharaj's having been insulted by his stepmother and his father's not having taken any step on this issue. But mere lamentation is useless. One should find out the means to mitigate one's lamentation. Thus both mother and son decided to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, because that is the only solution to all material problems. It is indicated in this connection that Dhruva Maharaj left his father's capital city to go to a secluded place to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the instruction of Prahlad Maharaj also that if one is seeking peace of mind, he should free himself from all contamination of family life and take shelter of the Supreme Godhead by going to the forest. To the Gaudiya Vaishnav, this forest is the forest of Vrinda or Vrindavan. If one takes shelter of Vrindavan under Vrindavan Eshwari, Srimati Radharani, certainly all the problems of his life are solved very easily. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyai Vicha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Karadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gaurvani Pachayane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatidi Shatarine Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasham Tato Jayamudirayat Nashta Prayasha Bhadreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhaviti Naishtiki. Okay, Hare Krishna. So, where are we in Bhagavatam? We're in the section entitled Dhruva Maharaj Leaves Home. So, earlier we were reading in our previous classes about King Uttanapada, and he had two queens. One was named Suniti and the other one was named Suruchi. But Suruchi was the favorite wife, and Suniti was less favored by King Uttanapada. And then Suniti's little son, Dhruva, he wants to approach his father and sit on his lap. You know, just little boys, they want the affection and love from their father. And while the king actually did appreciate Dhruva just as much as he appreciated Suruchi's son, because Suruchi was next to the king, she said to Dhruva that, actually, Dhruva, you're not allowed to approach your father for affection this way. And the only way you can achieve that affection, and actually the only way you can inherit the kingdom, is if you take birth from my womb. She said, first you have to pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead to fulfill your desires and take birth from my womb and become my son, because your mother is less favored, therefore you will not be favored by your father. And Dhruva is just 5 years old. He's just a young boy looking for the affection from his father. And naturally he became very upset. He became very angry. He thought, how can my father reject me? And even though the king really loved and appreciated both sons, because he favored this wife, he didn't say anything. And so Dhruva felt very upset and very hurt. And so he went to his mother and he was crying and he was lamenting. And then his mother, she starts to instruct little Dhruva. She also starts lamenting. She thinks, oh, you know, I'm not favored by the king. I'm not the favorite wife, and therefore you will also have to suffer because of this. And actually, I cannot help you. There's nothing I can do. But there is only one person who can help you, and that's Krishna. You have to go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you have to, with full attention, focus your mind on Him and accept Him into your heart. And then all of your desires will be fulfilled. He is the only one who can fulfill your desires. So Suruchi, she instructed Dhruva to go to the Supreme Lord, and then his mother also instructed him, you should go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So she explains that this is what the yogis do. She explains the process of achieving the favor of the Lord and achieving the heart's desire. The only one who can fulfill his desire is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And she explains that his grandfather, Swayambhuva Manu, the way that he received so much opulence was by worshipping the Supreme Lord. And even Lord Brahma, his great-grandfather, he also got to assist in the creation of the whole universe just because he was worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So she gives these examples, and then she says, you should also do that. You should also take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then she also explains that persons seeking liberation from the cycle of birth and death always take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in devotional service. But she says that He fulfills all desires, so therefore approach Him. And here we're at the verse where Dhruva is deciding that he's going to take his mother's advice and he's going to leave her, he's going to go to the forest. And remember, he's just a 5-year-old boy, but he's so determined. He's going and he's going to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and fulfill his heart's desire. So let's go through the purport here. Let's go through the translation and purport again. The translation is, the great sage Maitreya continued. So here Maitreya is busy reciting this whole story and what takes place. And he's continuing and he's saying, the instruction of Dhruva Maharaj's mother, Suniti, was actually meant for fulfilling his desired objective. So Dhruva could understand that I want something and my mother's telling me how to get it, so I'm going to follow her advice. Therefore, after deliberate consideration and with intelligence and fixed determination, he left his father's house. So he's leaving his father's house, he's going to the forest and he's going to try. So both the mother and the son were lamenting Dhruva Maharaj as having been insulted by his stepmother and his father's not having taken any step on this issue. But mere lamentation is useless. One should find out the means to mitigate one's lamentation. I remember when I was growing up, when I would cry, I would think, crying isn't going to resolve my problems. I must actually do something to resolve the issue, you know, instead of just crying, because lamenting will just waste time, whereas we could be doing something to actually resolve the problem. So all of us at some point in our lives lament over something. This world is a place of lamentation. In many cases we're lamenting. It's not an easy place to live in. But instead of just lamenting, we should think, well, what is the ultimate way in which we can mitigate all lamentation eternally? What is that process by which I can attain perfect happiness, that I don't have to lament again? So mere lamentation, it's said here, it's useless. So here both mother and son were lamenting, but then Dhruva Maharaj was intelligent enough to hear from his mother, and his mother advised him very wisely. How can you resolve your lamentation? What can you do to mitigate this lamentation? So both mother and son decided to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, because that is the only solution to all material problems. So if we try to solve our material problems with the material solution, then we'll just end up with more material problems because we become more entangled. But if we try to resolve our material problems by approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then eternally our material problems become resolved. We won't have material problems again if we take shelter in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. So it is indicated in this connection that Dhruva Maharaj left his father's capital city to go to a secluded place to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the instruction of Prahlad Maharaj also that if one is seeking peace of mind, he should free himself from all contamination of family life and take shelter of the Supreme Godhead by going to the forest. So this is an interesting point. We're getting an instruction to free ourselves from the contamination of family life and take shelter of the Supreme Lord by going to the forest. So what does that mean for us, devotees practicing in the city? We've got a family, we've got a house, we've got a job, we've got all of this to maintain. Do we give it all up and go to the forest? What do we do? So, Srila Prabhupada, he explains that we have to take shelter, right? We have to take shelter in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We could choose or try not to. We could try to take shelter in material nature, we always have to choose what to take shelter in. But just like if someone is in jail, whether someone is free or whether someone is in jail, both people have to be under the control of the government. So that's like us here in the material world. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Jai. We have to choose to take shelter in the internal energy of the Lord, the spiritual energy of the Lord, or the material energy of the Lord. Either way, whatever we choose to take shelter in, still we are controlled or we are governed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whether we choose to take shelter in Him or not. But taking shelter in Krishna directly is a little different from taking shelter in His external energy. We can say, yes, this is Krishna's energy, it's Krishna, so we can take shelter in that too. But no, it's different from taking shelter in Krishna directly. Just like if you say that, okay, I've entered the building, but going into one room is different from going to another room. Like the temple room here is different from going into the bathroom downstairs. They're different places, they're different. So taking shelter in Krishna is a little different. And Srila Prabhupada, in his translation to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 13, which says, Mahatmanastu mam partha devim prakritim ashrita, explains that great souls take shelter of the internal energy. Shrimati Radharani. So in order to do that, in order to take shelter, it is advised here that we free ourselves from material contamination of family life, and go to the forest. But then Prabhupada, he brings up this point that to the Gaudiya Vaishnav, this forest is the forest of Vrinda or Vrindavan. And my Guru Maharaj explains that he saw someone go to Vrindavan. He left his family and went to Vrindavan to visit for some time, to just focus and absorb himself in practicing Krishna consciousness and meditating on the Supreme Lord. But he was there in Vrindavan, next to Radhakund, the most sacred place. But what was he doing? He was texting his family, I'm in Vrindavan, taking photos of himself. Look, I'm in Vrindavan. So he is in Vrindavan, okay, but where is his consciousness? His consciousness is still there with his family. So going to Vrindavan or going to a sacred place to meditate on the Supreme Lord is not just a matter of taking our body and depositing it in a sacred place. Although that can be a part of it, actually what it is just a matter of consciousness. We can be living here in Chatsworth, South Africa, and our consciousness can be completely absorbed in Vrindavan, completely absorbed in Radharani and Krishna. And that's what Krishna consciousness is about, really. It's about trying to always remember Krishna, never forget Him. So how is it that the Gaudiya Vaishnava takes shelter of Krishna? How is it that we reside in Vrindavan? It's within our hearts. It's something internal. Because Vrindavan is a place which is not different from the Lord Himself. The Lord and His pastimes, the place where He resides, they're all a part and parcel of Him. They are not different from Him. So by associating with Krishna, by taking shelter, by chanting the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Actually, we are going to the forest of Vrindavan. We are leaving home and becoming free from the contamination of family life. The thing is about family attachment is that it's really difficult to give up. It's hard to give up. You know, when we've got people in our life who we spend so much time with, and we are trying in many ways to serve them. We can understand, though, that the highest service we can offer our family is the service of assisting them to make spiritual advancement and ultimately to get out of the material world, the material entanglements. So there's a verse which explains that actually we shouldn't accept the position of a father, a mother, a husband, or any position in anyone's life ultimately, unless we can actually deliver our dependents from the path of repeated birth and death. And that's in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5. So that's a big responsibility, actually. And when people marry or have children, oftentimes they don't really think about that being their responsibility. Yes, they're serving their husband or their wife or their children. They're serving them, they're looking after them. But this is the best way we can actually look after them, by assisting them in being delivered from repeated birth and death. That means making spiritual advancement and attaining the perfection of life. So unless the relationship is centered around that, the relationship can be so entangling. But as long as relationships are centered around Krishna consciousness, making advancement in spiritual life, then actually those relationships become transcendental, and then you are actually free from the contamination of family life. So it's not that you have to just give up all of your family members, but rather that whole relationship becomes purified because Krishna is in the center. But on the other hand, we are also instructed to accept that which is favorable for spiritual advancement, and that means rejecting that which is unfavorable. So there may be times also where we can see that a particular situation in particular relationships are not favorable, and therefore somebody may choose to distance himself from their families to focus on their practice. And like we can think of some examples, like Srila Prabhupada. He also had a family. Srila Prabhupada had a wife and children, and then at some point his family life became a bit of a hindrance on his path in his spiritual life. For example, his wife would take his books and actually sell them. All of his hard work, she would go and just sell it at the market for tea. So that's not really a very thoughtful or spiritually considerate activity that she was doing. And at some point, Srila Prabhupada had a dream that he should take sannyas. But he didn't just go and take sannyas. He first went to his godbrothers and discussed this all with him. So it's not that he whimsically decided to just take sannyas, leave his family and give up everything. So what we can see from the example Srila Prabhupada led was that one thing is that if family life is a hindrance, at some point we should consider distancing ourselves and just focusing completely on practicing our spiritual life. And on the other hand, that this should all be done under guidance, not that we should whimsically just give up everything and go to the forest and chant Hare Krishna. Everything we do should be done under the guidance of our spiritual masters, absolutely everything. So we cannot understand actually what is favorable. We can't always understand. We need to accept what is favorable and reject what is unfavorable. But sometimes we don't always know what that may be. Like even sometimes when someone becomes very dear to Krishna, he might take away everything, and that seems from one perspective unfavorable. Oh no, we don't have anything, how can we serve Krishna? But Krishna knows exactly what is needed for us to serve him in the best possible way. So he will always give exactly what is needed or take away exactly what needs to be taken away so that we can take shelter in him. If we are sincere, he will do that for us. On the other hand, here we're seeing that we should always approach Krishna. So this is what Dhruva Maharaj's mother is instructing Dhruva Maharaj to do, that whatever desire you have, it can only be fulfilled by Krishna. So there's this verse which says, it's the Canto 4, that's the one we're in, but it's later on. It's text number 41. It says, any person who desires the fruits of the four principles, religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and at the end, liberation, should engage himself in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For worship of his lotus feet yields the fulfillment of all these. So, Srimad Bhagavatam is described as being a desire tree. Or the Vedas are a desire tree. Vedic knowledge, it gives knowledge on the way you can achieve all of your desires. But the ripened fruit of all of that Vedic knowledge, the most sweet part of all that Vedic knowledge, is just to actually hear the glorification of the Lord, because the heart, the desires of the heart, the material desires of the heart, although they can be fulfilled, we won't find real satisfaction in the fulfillment of material desires, because the heart is really longing for relationship with the Lord, with Krishna, and therefore that longing in the heart can only be fulfilled by experiencing that relationship through hearing about Him. So sometimes we hear people say, I want to see God, show me God, where is God? But actually the devotee, how he sees God is through his ears, through chanting the Maha Mantra, through hearing about Him. And so Lakshmi Devi, who is always with the Lord, she actually advises us that, yes, Krishna, He can fulfill your desires, but she says He knows what you need. So, yes, He will fulfill those desires, but why approach Him with material desires? Why do that if he already knows exactly what you want and what you need? There's no need to go to Him and request so many things from Him. And actually, if we go to Him with all these material desires in our heart and we ask Him to fulfill them, we're just cheating ourselves, actually, because the fulfillment of our desires actually just leads to more entanglement in the material world, whereas we could be experiencing relationship with Krishna, which is what I said was really fulfilling to the heart. That's what really fulfills the heart. So we're just cheating ourselves out of that. But still, whether we have a heart full of material desires or whether we are just looking for some way to find the truth, with all of that or none of that, we should approach Krishna. He's always the one we should approach. And then as we shall see, Krishna may fulfill the material desire at the same time that He purifies it. So a better prayer would be that, Krishna, my heart is so contaminated with so much material desire. I'm not asking you to fulfill the desires as much as I'm asking you to clear that contamination from my heart, so that my only desire will be to serve you, because that will be the perfection of my life, to just serve you. So we have to actually lament about something. I mean, here we're reading about lamentation and how it is useless. But actually, we can lament that we don't love Krishna, because we should lament about that, right? It is very lamentable that we don't have love for Krishna. So we should try to learn to cry for Krishna. And if we can't cry for Krishna, we can cry that we can't cry for Krishna. Somehow or other, we have to learn how to cry for Krishna. So going into the Vrindavan forests, this can be something that we're doing in our consciousness, in our hearts, longing to be there, longing to be in such a place. And it's something that we can desire beyond just going there in this world, because Vrindavan is such a place that it is here in the material world, we can go and visit it, but it's also there in the spiritual world. There is a Vrindavan where there is Goloka Vrindavan and Gokula Vrindavan. So Goloka Vrindavan is there eternally in the spiritual world, and it would be our life's perfection to be able to go there. And Srila Prabhupada ends the purport by explaining that if one takes shelter of Vrindavan under Vrindavan Ishvari, Srimati Radharani, certainly all the problems of his life are solved very easily. So Vrindavan Ishvari, Srimati Radharani, is there on the altar next to Krishna. She's the internal pleasure potency of the Lord. She's the Shladini Shakti, the feminine counterpart of the Lord. And she is actually the queen of Vrindavan, Vrindavaneshwari. She is the controller of Vrindavan. There was a king who went to Vrindavan, and he went through a great deal of austerity, and he was suffering quite a lot in Vrindavan. And he had been fasting, and he was just about to break his fast, and he was just about to have a tiny bit of prasadam for the first time in a long time. And just as he picked up a small piece of prasadam and he was about to relish that prasadam, this little boy runs past him and steals his plate and runs away. And this king is just, he has had enough. He's thinking, I've suffered so much here in Vrindavan. I'm so hungry, and I was just about to break my fast, and this little boy has run past, and I just can't do this anymore. So he goes to the Pujari and he explains what happened, and he says, I've heard you are very close to Krishna, and I need to speak to this boy Krishna. I need to speak to Radharani. I need to explain to them what's going on. I need help because I am struggling. So the Pujari, he explains, oh yes, Radharani and Krishna, this is the place you can find them, and he instructs the king, you can go in this direction, and he gives him direction where to go. So the king, he goes in the direction, and then something very mystical happens to him. In front of him, he finds, when he gets to the place, he finds the most beautiful young girl he's ever seen. And next to her, there's the little boy who stole his prasadam. And the little boy, he's looking around nervously, and he's kind of saying with his eyes, don't tell her what I did. Don't tell her I stole your prasadam. I'll get into such big trouble. And then the king, he starts to address the young girl, and he explains what has happened, how much she has struggled. And the young girl, she says, no, nobody should suffer like that in my Vrindavan. And this young girl was actually Srimati Radharani. And that little boy, of course, we know, was Krishna. So, who's the boss in Vrindavan? It's actually Radharani. She's Vrindavaneshwari. So we have to learn how to take shelter. We have to learn how to take shelter of Vrindavan, under Vrindavaneshwari, said here. And how is it we can take shelter of Vrindavan? How is it we can take shelter of Srimati Radharani? First, we have to learn how to take shelter in Radharani's devotee, the devotee who is dear. Because in the beginning we were talking about desires. Yes, going to Krishna with all our hearts full of desires, we can do that, but how is it that that desire gets purified? Because we have to desire something. To be desireless means we're not alive. So we have to desire, but we want to desire Krishna. How do we just desire Krishna? It's by that association with a devotee who just desires Krishna. By taking shelter in the association of such a devotee. And who are those devotees? Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual masters, the devotees who have that desire. And it's described that actually Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be had even by pious activity in hundreds and thousands of lives. It can be attained only by paying one price, that is, intense greed to obtain it. If it is available somewhere, one must purchase it without delay. How is it we're going to get pure devotional service? Only intense greed can attain it, that's all. If we really long to attain it, then Krishna will instruct us from within our heart. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. How do we get it? How do we get it? And how do we get it? By pleasing Guru, by pleasing those devotees who have it. Because Krishna Bhakti Rasa, what is it? Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Because bhakti is within the heart of the pure devotee, because that desire to serve Krishna is within their heart. By serving and pleasing such devotees, we'll get their mercy. And somebody once asked Srila Prabhupada, how can we please you in the best way? And Srila Prabhupada, he said, if you love Krishna, that will please me in the best way. And then on another occasion, he said, if you chant Hare Krishna, that will please me. And in another occasion, he said that if you are reading and following the principles, and if you become Krishna conscious, that will please me. And then another time he said, simply by desiring to please me, you are pleasing me. So it all comes down to desire. Just desiring to please Krishna's devotee will help us to understand how to do that. And then by actually doing that, by chanting, by reading, by following, by learning how to love Krishna, then we'll be pleasing them more and more. And the more we can please our spiritual masters, the more we'll find so much satisfaction in practicing Krishna consciousness, and so much fulfillment of the heart's real desire. And I wanted to end by reading some beautiful prayers in the Vrindavan Mahim Amrita. Just give me 1 second. He who yearns to attain the sweetness of pure love in Vrindavan, but by destiny is forced to live elsewhere, laments and always remembers Vrindavan. Beautiful with splendid groves, where Sri Sri Radhika Krishna enjoy pastimes, he meditates on entering Vrindavan and thinks, now I am serving the divine couple. To they who, rejecting a thornless kingdom and beautiful woman, thinking all material happiness most bitter and renouncing education, noble birth, wealth and fame, go to Vrindavan, never to leave, we offer our respectful obeisances. To the supremely fortunate, pious and affectionate persons who live in Vrindavan, which is more blissful than Lord Vishnu's abode, and who, worshipping them with prayers and gifts, make Radha and Krishna deeply indebted to them, we offer our respectful obeisances. Friend, when you will die, do you know? Do not even infants sometimes die unexpectedly? With clear intelligence, without attachment to the body and sense, and without stopping to think, run to Vrindavan. If you desire to attain the supremely sweet, blissful, exalted, and opulent mellows of pure love of God, then, not touching the paths of bhakti mixed with piety, speculation, and dry renunciation, break the hard shackles of material life and accept the life of a sannyasi in Vrindavan. O friend, by great good fortune, you have attained this body where you have heard Vrindavan's wonderful glories and learned that everything in this world is like a dream. Don't put any faith in the mind and body. Run to Vrindavan. Oh brother, when you close your eyes in death, where will your loving wife, children, brothers, relatives, and friend be? Where will your good qualities be? Where will your fame be? Where will your pride, wealth, education, control over others, and others' powers and opulences be? O learned and intelligent friend, why do you not renounce these temporary things and run to Vrindavan? Okay, I think we should end there. Thank you very much. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Are there any comments or questions or corrections from anyone?
Hare Krishna. So thank you so much for the wonderful descriptions of these verses on Vrindavan. I just wanted to say that Srila Prabhupada has created Vrindavan all over the world by establishing his temples, and wherever there is deities of Radha Krishna, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Gaur Nitai, that's Vrindavan. So even we may be far, far away from Vrindavan, but just coming to the temple here, that's as good as coming to Vrindavan. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Devi. I completely forgot to bring that point up, but here we are actually sitting in Vrindavan. That's true. All of Prabhupada's centers around the world. We could be in Paris or New York or anywhere here at Chatsworth, and we're actually in the spiritual world because Srila Prabhupada has given us that. And the pure devotee himself is a tirtha. I wanted to bring that up, that he is containing within himself all of the holy places, but by being in the association of the person, you're in Vrindavan. By being in the place where Krishna is residing, you're in Vrindavan. So here we are. Welcome to Vrindavan, our guests. We are in Vrindavan, the most sacred place in the universe. Thank you for that. Does anyone else? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the nice gloss. I was just, if I may add some things as well, concerning the text that we have today, where we see that Dhruva has left home. And I see you touched on that in terms of giving up family. Srila Prabhupada also gave us this example of a little child who's playing with a broken piece of glass. And if you give him a sweet, he'll drop the broken piece of glass and he'll take the sweet, because the sweet is a higher taste. And then alternatively, if we try to take the broken piece of glass from his hand without giving him a higher taste, he may hold on to that piece of glass tighter, and in so doing may cut himself and injure himself. And this is what we see, that Suniti, she gave good counsel to her son. She didn't get angry based on what the stepmother had to say. She could have very easily fallen prey to that and practiced her envy or whatever bad qualities that she may have possessed. She didn't do that. She practiced the good quality and gave good counsel to her son, Dhruva, that the only way out of this is to turn to Krishna. And then Dhruva, being convinced, got the higher taste and then automatically just dropped the family and left. Thank you.
Thank you. It actually brings up 2 points that I also forgot to mention. One thing that you mentioned was how it also relates to this point of desire. Like, if the child, I heard another analogy kind of similar to that. If he's holding money and he's not going to just let it go, he'll cry. But if you give him the sweet, you give him that higher taste and he'll accept that, and you'll easily let go of, like you were saying, that broken glass. You'll easily let it go if that higher taste is there. And I was thinking about how his mother is setting such a nice example for what the duty is actually of a mother. As first guru, she's instructing according to Shastra, and she's not considering, most parents won't say, "Oh, my child, you should give up family life. You should leave me and go and practice spiritual life." Most mothers won't want to say that, actually. But she is setting such a nice example. She's just looking at the spiritual welfare or the welfare of her child and instructing him according to the scriptures and giving him the best advice. So that's very sweet. Is there anything else? Okay. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.